and one for the intelligent as fellas get. Listen, let's settle this, be clear. I could fall back 7 years, still it ain't no one ahead of me. Consider it a blessing if you get to stand next to me. 5-star general, OG veteran, cake like.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bios3 Raw TV. So this should actually be one of those shut up about the videos, which I don't know how long this is going to run, but I was actually asked to make this video. And I thought it was an interesting subject because it isn't, it's talked about, but it's talked about too much, if that makes any sense. And the video was supposed to be about cortisol levels. And cortisol, now, here's the thing. You don't know what is going on with your body cortisol-wise unless you have a fucking blood test, okay? I'm so sick of fucking hearing. This is where it should be the shut up about the cortisol. That's what it should be, this fucking video. I am so sick of fucking hearing about things that people have no idea about, okay? I don't know where this came about, but it's actually been talked a lot. I mean, it's been brought up a lot. I think basically it was actually being brought up finally when the cortisol blockers first started hitting the market, like PS, it's polycetylstyrene or whatever the fuck it is. When those first started hitting the market, you started hearing people talking about cortisol levels and it ruining physiques and it ruining muscle and it tearing muscle tissue and all this bullshit, which those may be true facts. It's maybe true that cortisol levels will ruin your physique the day of a show. Cortisol levels will ruin, tear down muscle tissue. It'll tear down your immune system, all these different types of things. But 99% of the time, that's not what's happening to you. It is not a cortisol level issue, okay? I don't give a fuck how hard you train. I don't give a shit what you're fucking taking. It's not a cortisol level issue, okay? Here's one of the instances that is a good example of where people blame cortisol. They say, "Oh, Jerry, I was looking great a week before the show. Then the night of the show, I get nervous and my body just went to hell. And I think my cortisol levels rise." Like, motherfucker, let me just tell you something, all right? More than likely, you having a little nerves over your fucking competition is not going to be enough to raise your cortisol level so high that it fucking destroys your body. Here's what happened. You or your coach, whoever the fuck you're listening to, gave you a fucking diuretic. Because I actually asked the person, did you use diuretics? Well, yeah. Okay, what did you use? Aldactone. Okay, this is famous for doing this. You take Aldactone, and this has happened to me in Pittsburgh one time. I looked fucking great a week out, 2 days out. 3 days out, great. Started taking the Aldactone. The Aldactone starts to kick in, and it is a sodium and water it's a reuptake inhibitor, okay, which means that you are not going to uptake sodium or water. And without either one of those things, you don't uptake carbohydrates. You can't load the carbohydrates properly. So essentially, you get this big distended stomach, looks like a barrel. Your muscles get flat, and you get watery, okay? That is the diuretic doing that. That is not cortisol that's doing it, okay? That's not how that works. A lot of people seem to think that, when you get stressed out, it like completely dramatically changes everything. I mean, I know people that have had actually chronically high cortisol levels, and they've actually had them measured throughout the week. I think it was every 3 days they actually had a cortisol test, a blood test or a saliva test or whatever it was, trying to figure out where the problem was that was causing these problems. And it was like severe joint pain. I'm almost like arthritis. I mean, fucking hair loss. I mean, shit that was really fucking these people up. And they found that when they were going to work during the week, the cortisol levels were very high. On the weekends, it would drop. That was found out through a blood test, saliva. Even the symptoms that they were having medically couldn't prove that cortisol was doing it unless they had the cortisol levels measured. So a lot of times, you have the people thinking they're in the gym too. I mean, this is another great one. They're in the gym and they're like, oh, they're the biggest one in the gym. They're the most ripped one in the gym. And they're like, oh yeah, look at me. And they think they look great and they're under the fucking things. They do a little water manipulation, that fucks up. But then you get next to people that actually are fucking 10 times better than you on stage. And they're fucking dry and they're actually lean. They're not a fat ass. Next thing you know, you look like a giant fucking turd on stage compared to them. And in your head, you're like, because you don't have any pictures of yourself in the gym. Well, maybe now people do it because they have camera phones. But back then, we didn't have any, phones with cameras on them. You thought you looked fucking awesome in the gym. And then when you see a picture of yourself on stage, you're like, what the fuck happened to me? Oh my God. You know what happened to me? When I saw those guys, I got nervous. Cortisol levels rise. And next thing you know, and I'm sitting there going, where the fuck did this all come from? Like, it's confusing as fuck. And I've actually heard coaches tell people cortisol levels go up. Now, natural athletes, I think that, they can have nerves, stuff that fucks with them before they go on stage. I've actually seen people drink wine, take shots, vodka, do all, the most random shit. I've actually known people that have taken Xanax to keep themselves calm, etc. before shows. I've actually taken Xanax before shows because I don't sleep the night before. I literally don't sleep. And if I don't take something like that, I won't sleep. Now I've just learned to just not fucking sleep because it doesn't affect the way I look, doesn't affect the way I feel. Yes, I'm tired, but you know what? Everybody's fucking tired at that show. So like, there's been all these different things that come up, but really, the trainers are searching for a reason to look like they know what the fuck they're talking about. So they're like, well, what the fuck happened to me? Instead of being like, I fucked up the diuretic with him, they're like, oh, your cortisol levels must have skyrocketed. Remember when you get nervous? Give me a fucking break. You know, that's what they'll say rather than be like, fuck, it's my fault. The guy that actually gave me the diuretics when they fucked up literally came in the room with me afterwards, and I was going to do a show 2 weeks later. And I had said, and I go in there and I said, I fucking look terrible. I get like last call out. I'm not fucking doing that show. I'm done. I just need to fucking regroup. And I was sitting there with my girlfriend at the time. This is 2009. No, 2008. 2007. And he comes in the room and he says, can I talk to him for a minute? So she leaves and he says, listen, he sits down with me. He goes, this is my fault. He's like, I'm so sorry. You know, he goes, I've done this in the past. I thought once you flattened out, if we fed you pancakes and fucking jelly, and the problem is you're not reuptaking the shit. He didn't know how the fucking diuretic worked. Okay? Stuff like Diazide, that doesn't cause the same effect. And if you do flatten out Diazide, it allows you to reuptake sodium, water, and carbs, and you can change that. Okay? I've since then learned how that works. But going back to the cortisol thing, there is a drug called Cytidrin. Okay? Cytidrin, very hard to find. You know, some of the pros use it if they can get their hands on it. And that will actually dry you out because it kills all cortisol. Like, basically just destroys all cortisol. And the few people that I knew used it said their hands were like fucking stone. Like, they couldn't like unstick their fucking hands. Like, it was so bad. And it lasted for a couple of days. So I have heard of people using stuff to lower cortisol to ungodly levels. Okay? At like a top tier fucking, you know, show. But that being said, I'm tired of hearing this shit that people don't really know about. I hear people, they come up to me and they come up with these cockamamie fucking bro fucking quack shit that like, my cortisol levels, right, so I lost the show. And I'm like, look at the pictures and I'm like, you got a lot of fat left on your fucking midsection. You lost because you were fat, not cortisol level. You know, are people like, oh, my hunger because my ghrelin. So what I do is I eat and that resets my ghrelin. And next thing you know, I'm losing fat again. I'm like, okay, first of all, you haven't lost a pound in 5 weeks. Your hunger went away because you ate food. And then when you went back on your diet, it came back. Okay, you're talking about ghrelin levels. You don't even know whether your levels fucking raised, lowered. You don't even fucking know because you have to take a blood test. You have no idea. What you're doing is reading about how this shit works, then applying it to something that's happening to yourself without even fucking knowing it. And what that does is fuck things up even more. You're spinning your fucking wheels. You think you're doing one thing and you don't even know what the fuck you're doing. So be aware, guys. Like, stop fucking overthinking. It's called paralysis by analysis. Stop overthinking these things about fucking cortisol and fucking the ghrelin and all the bullshit, because 9 out of 10 out of times, unless you have some kind of fucking medical condition, your cortisol levels are not going to go fucking high enough just because you're nervous for a competition to make any fucking bit of difference. And they're not going to keep you from fucking gaining. If you're not gaining, guess what? You're not fucking training hard enough, okay? You're not fucking recovering, because you have to recover to fucking grow, and you're not fucking eating enough. That's what's happening. It's not your fucking cortisol levels, all right? And if you're coming in watery and fucking flat and looking like shit for a goddamn fucking contest, guess what? You fucked up the carb load, you flattened out, you may have fucked up the diuretics, and maybe you're just too fucking fat to begin with. That's what's really going on, guys. So be aware. People that come in talking about cortisol levels, they don't really fucking know. They haven't had a test to find out what the fuck is going on. It's some bullshit bro shit they took out of their fucking ass to make them sound fucking smart rather than being like, I don't know what happened. I think I wasn't lean enough, which is really the case. Biowestertraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biowestertraining.com is a blog. It's the fucking no cortisol biceps. See how dry it is, and we're